Hi, this is Gilbert Gottfried, and this is Gilbert Gottfried's amazing Colossal podcast.
He's laughing already.
Yes, our guest is...
How does he do that? Do more.
Oh, two more.
Do it again.
Yeah.
Your wife says that all the time.
So I'm still Gilbert Gottfried, and this is still Gilbert Gottfried's amazing Colossal podcast with my co-host Frank Santopadre and our engineer Frank Verderosa. And our guest this week is someone who we wanted a book from the very beginning of this show. But in spite of our best efforts, he's cleverly managed to evade us.
I was scared. I mean, who wouldn't be? You're an amazing persona. You are, you're not a regular guy.
That's for sure.
I mean that in the most loving way. So first of all, I thought, why would he ever? And Dara, your fabulous wife, how you ever got here, I don't know. I don't want to hear about that. But she said, would you be on Gil's show? And I said, no. I said, first of all, what would he ever do with me? I couldn't get on Letterman years ago because he said I wasn't square enough and I wasn't hip enough. He wasn't square enough to make fun of me, and I wasn't hip enough to be cool. I've just never been. I'm the Hollywood square. So anyway, I couldn't get on. So I figured, what would you do with me? I'm so grateful to be. And I'm still scared.
Now can I
Yes, go ahead. Oh, you want to speak on this show? Go ahead.
No, I want to
Go ahead.
get some of your credits in.
Pull yourself together.
And at any time you want to jump in, that's fine.
You were over there.
Okay. He's a musician, singer, and he's playing with his plastic water bottle. He's a musician, singer, recording artist, actor, former variety show and game show host, and one of the most versatile and visible entertainments of the last half century. You've seen his familiar face on dozens of TV shows.
Who wrote this shit? What is this?
It's a bio. It's a long intro.
That's not my bio. I don't say that on my bio. Who gave you that?
You're not versatile?
I've never learned to do anything well.
So let him get through it, John. Then you can
really
dispute
made
it.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So humble. You called him an entertainment, by the way.
He's an entertainment.
Yeah.
He's a television set in himself. And he's a familiar face on dozens of television shows, including The Entertainers, The Ed Sullivan Show, Here's Lucy, The Kraft Music Hall, The Merv Griffin Show, The Carol Burnett Show, Love American Style, The Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour, Tony Orlando and Dawn, The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, a show he guest hosted 87 times. He's also served as host of the hit game shows The $10,000 Pyramid.
He'll get through it. Maybe a little faster, Gil.
And the Hollywood Squares, as well as his own variety show and talk show, The John Davidson Show and The John Davidson Show. He appeared in 2 Walt Disney musicals, and he starred in his own NBC series, The Girl with Something Extra.
Sally Field was the star of that show. I was just her husband.
Just shut up. I want to get through this. I'm sick of these interruptions. I have a show to do here. He guest starred in memorable episode of The Streets of San Francisco, playing the part of a homicidal transvestite, a role he barely edged me out of. For 5 seasons, he co-hosted the hit primetime series That's Incredible. And somewhere along the line, he found time to record 15 albums, host award shows, beauty pageants, and Christmas specials, and star in his own one-man show at the John Davidson Theater in Branson, Missouri. He even turned up in the movie Edward Scissorhands. You want to know who he's worked with? Everybody. George Burns, Gene Kelly, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, Chuck Berry, Ella Fitzgerald, Mickey Rooney, Sid Caesar, Julie Andrews, Fred McMurray, Captain Kangaroo, the Ritz Brothers, and even Walt Disney himself, just to name a few. Please welcome the ideal guest for this podcast, a true show business renaissance man, and a man who posed nude.
It wasn't nude.
Yes, it was.
It was not. No, I was
Yeah.
wearing a towel.
Yeah.
It was for Cosmo. I was the follow-up to Burt Reynolds. It was not. It wasn't Playgirl. I was
called a semi-nude.
I had a semi-nude. It was very suggestive.
I saw your schmeckle.
No.
Picture.
I was Mr. February, which is the shortest month, but
Shortest
it was
month.
so stupid.
And
Should never have done that.
And claims, he posed nude, and he
I
claims,
didn't pose nude. I was wearing a towel.
Shut the fuck up, would you please?
So I brought
I'm trying to do a show.
I brought
here.
this picture back.
Okay.
And I showed it to Paul.
All right.
I'll tell you about
John Davidson.
that was the biggest mistake. And people like Art
The posing or the intro?
The posing, yeah, that intro. After I did that center, I was a follow-up to Burt Reynolds. It was so... my manager said... Helen Gurley Brown called and said, wants to do you as a centerfold. I said, this is ridiculous. No one wants to see me nude. I don't have that kind of a thing. I'm not a Tom Jones or an Engelbert or that sort of a thing. So I did this picture, and I brought it back and showed it to Paul Lynde on the Hollywood Square.
God.
Paul Lynde took one look at it. He said, well, you should have been the ambassador to underdeveloped countries. You know that stuff was all written for Paul Lynde.
Yeah.
You know
Of course.
That. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But in a way, how do you relate to Paul Lynde? Did he make you laugh? Because he had that sort of, it's a little
sure.
bit like Gilbert, isn't it?
You know what? I remember seeing it was a documentary about the history of Hollywood Squares, something we have in common, both you and I. Because I was, and they would say, like the host would ask a question, and you could see the wheels turning in Paul Lynde's head. And he put in gay reference that would shock and then when you listen to it, the questions are, and who do you find in Fairyland? And where do you locate Boys Town?
Well, Bruce Valanche was writing some of those questions, setting him up.
Yeah. And you're going, but it's Paul Lynde being such a rebel, I put in gay jokes.
No, he never did stand up. He was just a guy that said things funny in a funny way. But he never wrote any of it as you do. He wasn't that kind of a performer at all.
And he hated the Jews. I heard he would get drunk when in the lunch hour. All the other guests were having fun, and Paul Lynde would be there, bombed out of his skull, going, those fucking Jews. They're the reason I don't have a career.
You found him to be a dark character, didn't you, John?
Well, I did.
Yeah.
And because when I was hosting the show, Joan Rivers was my center square. But when Peter Marshall, the classic host, was doing, Paul was in the center, of course, and Karen Valentine would be on his left, and I would be on his left. I was on his right, and he was mean to us. He was really a mean guy. I don't mind saying that, and he was miserable. I think he just had I don't know. He just wasn't a very nice man. At least to me, he wasn't.
Yeah, no, I've heard that. And when he got drunk, he was a mean
I never
drunk.
hung out with him. I tried to stay away from him. And I got the feeling that Peter Marshall tried to stay away from him. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that. But I think we all just kind of tiptoed around him so he wouldn't get ticked off. But it's unfortunate because he made people laugh.
Yeah.
We've now had all 3 Hollywood Squares hosts on this show.
Oh, my God.
You had Tom Berger on?
We had Tom and,
Wasn't he great?
And Peter. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Both great. Tom was live. Peter was on Skype. On
Peter's 93
Lovely
or
man
something.
and sharp as hell.
And
Yes.
he's still singing.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah.
And
was a
still
wonderful-
has the voice, the same voice, same personality.
Circle gets a square.
A wonderful guest.
See, I like doing Hollywood Squares.
Did you do a lot of them? Not when I don't think I ever had you on when I was hosting.
No.
You were on with
I
Peter,
did it
with,
when it was
Bergeron.
first. Yeah, first it was Whoopi Goldberg was producing, and then later on Henry Winkler, and it was Bergeron was the. Host.
Later then. That was after I was. Yeah. Yeah. It's a classic idea. You set people up to be funny, and it works. It was fun.
Yeah.
Tell us about Bert Lahr, John. I don't
first
think we've
Broadway
had
show.
anybody who's ever worked with him on this show.
Bert Lahr, of course, is the Cowardly Lion.
Yeah.
For people that don't know that name, but if I were king of the jungle, I straight out of college, I got to New York, and I was a college graduate, and it was David Merrick auditioned for a part of a college graduate who goes to the Yukon to visit his dad and his buddies, and I was the son of one of these buddies, and so I was just perfect for it. See, when I got to New York, nobody smiled. I came from Denison, where I had the Denison hello. I was walking down 42nd Street, saying, "Hi, how are you?" Only hookers and gay guys would speak back to me, So it was like I couldn't understand why everybody wasn't saying hi to me. But I smiled a lot, and everyone else was doing Al Pacino and Robert De Niro in this very, I'm a serious
New
actor.
York method, yeah.
And so my first role was in Foxy with Bert Lahr, and Bert Lahr was a warrior. It never was funny enough for him. Are you like that, Gil? Do you go off stage and say, God, I just wasn't funny enough?
Oh, yeah.
You get down on yourself. You're trying,
Yes.
how can I make it funnier? Because a lot of comedians are too hard on themselves.
Sometimes when I'm on stage, I feel like, or doing an interview, I feel like, oh, well, that was a bad Gilbert Gottfried imitation I just did.
Well, you're hard on yourself anyway.
Yeah.
When you do sets.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not satisfied that easily.
No.
Well, Bert Lahr was like that.
Oh, and you know what? Jumping around again, when you said you weren't happy with posing with your penis out,
I was wearing a towel.
I heard, I saw in interviews, Burt Reynolds regrets having.
Well, he did it before John. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he was the first.
regrets.
Oh, he was the first. Yeah. Yeah. My manager thought it would broaden my image or something, but I think, I don't know. As I say, Art Linkletter caught me at a restaurant, the old Brown Derby. I'll never forget it. And he said, "Why did you do that?" And I guess it was a mistake. I don't know. I mean, what did I want? What did I expect? I don't know. As I say, my dad was a preacher. I was a preacher's kid. I'm not really. I'm an atheist. I'm a secular, progressive Democrat. And but it upset my folks, because I was a preacher's kid.
Did going into the business upset your folks? Are they okay with that?
My first contract was with Columbia Records, and they were going to have a cocktail party. And my folks stupidly said, "Well, are they going to serve alcohol?"
Wow.
It's a cocktail party. And I said, of course they are. And that's just, and but they, right away, they saw that I was going to do my career and I was going to do. But you mentioned George Carlin. I went out to the West Coast in 66. Now, this is during the 60s to host the Kraft Summer Music Hall. Bob Banner, the television producer, discovered me in a Broadway show.
Sure, we know
in
that
Foxy,
name.
In Foxy.
We know that name.
Yeah.
Big name.
Bob Banner had discovered Carol Burnett and developed her.
Yeah.
He said, I want you to be a variety show host. And I said, I just want to play Curly in Oklahoma or what? I just want to be, the music man in Harold Hill. And he said, no, you can figure out how to play John Davidson. We can talk about that. I consider John Davidson a character that I played all these. Anyway, so he brought me out to California, and I hear George Carlin was the writer of the show, and Richie Pryor was on the show. And I was sort of in a bubble. I looked so cute and so wholesome, a lot like Gil. and so I think George, it was like oil and water. I mean, George.
This is the button-down Carlin, though, right?
Yes,
before the transition.
Back then, yeah.
And prior
but
to.
I think they didn't know what to do with me, and I didn't know really. We never hung out with them. I'm so sorry for that. Since George passed away, I met his daughter,
Kelly. Yeah, we had her here. She's lovely.
Yeah. And we talked about those years when I was just so in another, I was like Pat Boone back then. It was really and the greatest thing that happened to me is meeting people like Gil and George and Richie and people in show business that broadened my life. That's why I became a theater arts major, because of the people.
Right. Well, your dad, you're quick to describe your dad as a Northern Baptist, not a Southern Baptist. So they weren't that conservative.
That can dance.
Yes, right.
Yeah, he was. As a matter of fact, it was hard to pin him down. I would say, Dad, really? The virgin birth, the resurrection, the walking on water, changing. And he said, what does it matter whether that happened or not? Look at what Jesus did for the world. Well, we've killed a lot of people because of Christianity. It started a lot of wars. You can't, to make the case that morality has to be with a supreme being or with a Jesus, morality was there long before Jesus. He collected a bunch of the good. And who knows what Jesus really said? I mean, the Bible was written 30 years after Jesus died. These were verbal stories. So when they say these are the words of Jesus Christ, well, come on.
Did you spar with him about this stuff? Or did he?
You couldn't spar with him. He'd say, what does it matter?
Yeah.
Look what the church is doing. Mm-hmm. Well, look what psychology is. It'd be better to get a good psychiatrist, I think, than to become religious.
I blame Gilbert for a lot of that violence that you mentioned. Yeah.
And when I heard you were friends with Penn Jillette.
I love Penn Jillette.
We love Penn.
First of all, their show is a killer show.
Oh, yes.
I've seen it 3 times.
So I knew then, I said, well, this guy's an atheist. If Penn sneezes and you say, God bless you.
Oh, yeah, he's hardcore.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't.
He's hardcore.
But he and I did the Free Thought Society thing in Washington. We went and spoke on the green there in Washington. So exciting.
That video's online.
I think it is.
Yeah, you're singing that song about being a liberal that we were talking about.
Yeah, I love Roy Zimmerman. Is a singing activist, guitar player, songwriter. I hope I said that it's a Roy Zimmerman song. I think I gave him credit for that.
You did, for sure.
I admire him a lot. But I told a story on that about they asked me to sing the 7th inning stretch at the Kansas City Royals game because I was doing a show in Kansas City. This is before I came out as an atheist. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to sing, take me out to the ball game, take me out to the park. Great. 3 days before I'm supposed to do it, they said, John, we've changed our idea here. We want you to sing God Bless America. And I thought, I don't want to sing that song. I don't want to, I know my little statement isn't going to mean anything to anybody, but so I said, I've got a rehearsal at the theater. I'm sorry, I don't want to do the 7th, and I canceled. Looking back on it, what would have happened if I walked out in the field, taken the microphone and sang, I love America. It's the land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her with the lights from above through the mountains. I love America, my home, sweet home. I love America, my home, sweet home. They might have shot my ass.
Hard
right
to
out
know.
of there.
They might have Jose Feliciano'd you. Remember that?
No.
When he improvised the Star Spangled Banner on an acoustic guitar.
Well, that's
and he got a lot of hate mail for it.
But
or maybe it was the World Series.
I'm an atheist. There came a point where I've wrestled with religion all my life. In college, I was a philosophy major because I wanted to be closer to my dad because my dad was a philosophy major but went to seminary. And my first 2 courses were Logic 101 and Comparative Religions of the World. Well, logic and religion just doesn't go together. And religions of the world, you begin to realize that man created religion out of his fears
And because of his self-doubt and his a way of getting through life, there's no question that man created religion, created gods, all the Greek gods. Are we an atheist because I don't believe in Zeus?
It's interesting.
You know, that Sam Harris.
I saw when you're talking about Sam Harris.
Yeah.
I said to my wife, I'm going to get along with this guy.
Christopher Hitchens,
Yeah.
and Richard Dawson, and yeah.
Can't get enough of him.
What are you, a Satanist?
The first time I said, I don't believe in God, I really thought that lightning was going to strike me.
Yeah.
You know, so
Well,
anyway.
weren't you going to follow in Dad's footsteps when you were young, and then the public speaking
Get off my
part?
show, you Christ killer.
I figured out right away.
Only Christians were.
The reason why I wanted to be a preacher
Yeah.
was to get up in front of people.
That's right. That
and
was the part
speak.
that attracted you.
I didn't want to
Wow.
do funerals. I didn't want to visit people in hospitals. I wanted to get up and speak in front of them.
I bet you,
How
I mean,
much?
aside from the money
Yeah.
that preachers get, I bet you like probably 99% of them love the adulation
Why
and
wouldn't they?
love the crowd.
What about Jackie Mason? Right? Was a
Yes,
cantor.
It's
before
a
he went
great
into
position to be in. I think that's the other thing. I wanted the respect and the love, the adoration that my dad got. Because I grew up seeing him in the pulpit wearing these great robes, you know, and people were mesmerized by what he said. Well, that's a cool position to be in.
Yeah.
And your father looked like God's messenger, like he said, "Here, you."
That's right. But you're selling voodoo.
Yeah.
It's voodoo. And it's you know, I spent a lot of time in Mexico where these poor people walk up to these cathedrals that they think of the money the Catholic Church has. Oh, my God. And
As George Carlin said, the first thing he learned about God was that he always needs money. He's always short of money.
Oh, yeah. Anyway.
You know what was the weirdest story, though, that came out with his daughter? George Carlin, when the mother, Mrs. Carlin, was pregnant with George, they discussed it, and they discussed having an abortion when George was in her belly.
Yeah, that's true.
And she went to the abortion doctor and saw a picture of the Virgin Mary on the wall and felt so much guilt that she didn't have the abortion, thus giving birth to one of like the most anti-religion people.
A spokesman
Yes.
for the movement. Yeah, it's
Let
an
me not
irony.
hesitate to say that just like Penn Jillette does not say when he entertains people as a magician, he never gets into anti-religion.
It's on his podcast,
And
he's public about it.
And I don't in my show either.
Right,
No.
When I do my shows now, I do jokes, I sing songs. I might mention that I'm not religious, but I don't carry on about it at all. I entertain people.
Yeah, it's like talking about politics.
Right.
And yeah.
So you fell in love with performing, and when you came to New York, what were you, in your 20s, in your early 20s?
Yeah, 23, 24.
23.
Yeah. And my first television show was The Fantastics. I played the boy on The Fantastics.
Ricardo
And
Montalban.
Ricardo Montalban, Cordoba. I had such a crush on Ricardo Montalban.
Did you?
See, I think it's very normal for guys to have crushes on other guys.
You see, Gil?
Yeah.
You see, what, are you a hard ass about the gay life? Are you not?
Just teasing him.
You okay?
Yeah.
I'm not gay. I've never had a gay relationship. I've never had. I've been married for 46 years
Holy crap.
to two different women.
But Ricardo struck he struck a chord.
But
a nerve.
I've certainly been attracted to men. I just not sexually, just want to be closer to them. And gee, I'd like to be like that guy. And I mean, that's what keeps fraternities together, right? It's so natural. I think we've evolved so much in this country to recognizing that gayness, that homosexuality is a human response. I think so many of us are bisexual. You know, I've never had a gay relationship, but I think it's so normal to be bisexual, to be attracted to anybody, any human being. I think that's the most normal thing in the world. You're quiet now because
What are you, a homo?
No, it's going to turn into dice on you.
Hey, you're going bisexual. What are you, a homo? Hey, you ever like to take it?
I'm getting back on track here, John. You're in your 20s. You're on Broadway. Yeah. You get it. Bob Banner sees you in Foxy, decides this guy's a project I'm going to take on, and helps you build a persona.
I said, I just want to be a leading man on Broadway. He said, no. You got to be, you want to be a spear. You want to be, Tony Bennett is a spear. He does one thing, does it very well.
Johnny Mathis.
Johnny Mathis is a spear. He does one thing very well. He's never tried to act or do other things. He said, you're going to be a Swiss Army knife. I used to say a pitchfork, and then now I say Swiss Army knife. In other words, if you want to do Shakespeare? Yeah, I can do Shakespeare. You want to host a game show? I'll do that. Yeah, you want to sing God Bless America at the Kansas City ball game? No. You want to, whatever. So I've done a sitcom, I've done Broadway musicals. I've done a nightclub act. I've done serious drama, whatever.
That's why we referred to you as versatile in the introduction.
Oh, that's right.
You are a Swiss Army knife.
I'm a Swiss Army knife.
You are.
But I've never made it. I mean, people say I'm over the hill. Well, I don't remember peaking. I never made it. I was just one of those guys trying to get it right. I'm still trying to get it right.
We could dispute that. Well, Banner, so he had a whole plan for you. Yeah. This is what you're going to do.
Yeah, as he did with Carol Burnett, and it worked.
Was he involved with Bob Newhart's career as well, and Dom DeLuise?
Dom DeLuise, yes, but no. But he does television. DeLuise got into film, and Bob Newhart got into other types of TV. But we all started on The Entertainers. That's right, in '65.
Right,
Frank, you know so much.
Well, it's just a lot of it is research. A lot of it I remember.
Yeah. Gil, not so much.
It took him 15 minutes to crack the code.
Yeah.
I got to talk to you about some of those variety shows, because these are shows we've talked about, Gilbert. Hollywood Palace, Kraft Summer Music Hall, you mentioned.
Yeah. I remember Como. Barbara Feldon was on this show.
Who John worked with.
Yeah.
Oh, tell us about working with Barbara.
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
Barbara Feldon. I mean, she was great. Sally Field is the gal that there's another crush I had. I had a crush on Sally. Oh,
Gidget.
But then we did The Girl with Something Extra, and she was in transition between becoming the Academy Award winner twice, and she wasn't Gidget in The Girl with Something Extra, but she wasn't yet Sybil, and she did Sybil or something, but
it was right around that time.
She helped me so much with acting, and Sally Field is a great lady.
Here's quickly, just because I told you, because I plugged this, I threatened you with this before we started, a short list of people that we've had here on this show that you work with.
Yeah.
Bernie Kopell, Ed Asner, Tony Orlando, Orson Bean, Paul Williams, Dick Cavett, John Biner, Tony Sandler of Sandler and Young, Alan Alda, Barbara Feldon, Ronnie Schell, David Steinberg, Rich Little, who you worked with a lot, and Robert Wagner.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
For a guy that didn't make it.
I never made it. But what was I? Was I any good in those shows? I mean, they were probably good, but I was good at times. I've been good. I've had good moments, but I always think I can do it better. I always think,
I found it interesting. You said to somebody who asked you that your best role you think is still to come.
I'm still,
Yeah, your best work.
Right now I'm trying to put together a show for Birdland. I'm coming into Birdland the end of May.
Right here, New York City.
And I've never played Birdland. This is New York City. I used to play the Persian Room at the Plaza years ago, but that was the old...
Wow.
Now I'm reinvented myself as a troubadour with my guitar and singer-songwriter, written a lot of original songs and stuff, but... I wrote a song for Gil. I want to share this.
Oh, wonderful!
Even though I'm in my
perfect.
I thought in my 70s I would have all the answers, but now I have more questions than answers. Why do men have nipples? How come Tarzan has no beard? Think about that. Why do bars have parking lots if I can't drink and drive? Am I the only one who finds this weird? Why did Adam and Eve need navels? Think about it.
Yeah.
If your doctor's practicing, is he practicing on you? Why wash my bath towels? I'm so clean when I use them. What are training bras training them to do? Why did kamikazes wear helmets? So you like the sick ones because you're really a sick fuck. Why is a boxing ring square? How will I know when my invisible ink runs out? Why isn't mouse-flavored cat food in stores everywhere? Why are there braille dots on drive-up ATMs? Is the alphabet in that order because of the song? Why did Superman wear his underpants outside? And why have you let this song go on this long? There he is, ladies and gentlemen. John Davidson, versatile.
I never thought I'd hear John Davidson call me a sick fuck.
Wow.
That's like the biggest honor.
I did that for you.
It's Carlin-esque in its absurdity and its observations of absurd things.
Yeah, and he's a sick fuck.
Yeah, or Stephen Wright, too.
And it's funny, when you were talking before about wanting to get better, we had on Bruce Stern on the show.
Yeah.
And Bruce Stern, I don't know how old he is now, how many
80s.
movies. Yeah. And he said he's still trying to be a better actor.
Aren't you trying to be a better stand-up? Aren't you
No,
always...
I've given up. As long as the check.
No, you care about this stuff. You do. It's I suppose you've dealt with the criticism that it's easy to be funny if you're dirty, right?
Yeah.
You go way beyond that because these are clever things that you're saying. You're not part of a shock jock in the morning, right? That's one way of being funny. You go way beyond that.
Have you seen him live lately, John?
I saw the great documentary.
Oh, you saw the doc.
The documentary has great moments.
Yes, it sure does.
Just where you're just slaying him. No, I would love. When can I see you live? Because you're not here.
I'll give you a half price ticket.
I can pay for a ticket now.
Yeah, the
I live in New
documentary is
Hampshire.
called Gilbert.
What?
The documentary is called Gilbert.
We'll give Neil
it's
Berkeley
incredible.
a plug, too. He did a great job.
And where do people find that?
On Hulu, I think, was the last.
I mean, you
There are a
got
bunch
to see
under
this.
Gilbert's bed.
I mean, it's an inspiration. It's touching.
Very
It'll
good.
make you cry at times. Do you mind that?
No.
Yeah.
Very good.
I sort of had a crush on you during it. So speaking about crushes.
You just want to fuck every guy you see.
I like people. I usually...
Especially men.
No.
What the fuck is the matter
I have
with
crushes on a lot of women. I could go on and
He's
on.
talking about non-sexual crushes, Gil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the crushes women have on me.
How did you find your way into those? How did you find your way into two Disney live-action musicals?
Well, they saw me on a Bell telephone hour way in '65 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Mary Poppins had just come out, and so they wanted to make the follow-up to Mary Poppins, and they signed me to a 3-picture deal. Actually,
Was Banner managing you at that point?
Banner? Let me see. Was manager
Before Jerry Weintraub came along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. You know what? When I went out for the screen test, he wasn't. But then during that is when he signed me. Two of them. One was called The Happiest Millionaire.
Sure.
And Walt Disney was alive, and Walker. And we called him Walt. He ate in the commissary on the table next.
It's the
to us.
last movie he was directly involved in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Frank, you know so much.
Well,
He called me.
And
John.
this Walt Disney.
I also
what
work
did
for
he
the
do?
company.
He called me John. And
Really?
He wanted me to call him Walt. And by the way, he was a chain smoker. Smoked
Yeah,
one cigarette
yeah,
after
sure.
another. Yeah.
I heard, someone told me that back when Disney was alive,
Yeah.
there used to be a guy whose whole job was to take photos of Disney and erase the cigarette from his hand.
I'll bet.
That's interesting.
And if the employees of Disney were screwing off, they knew it was time to get back to work by his loud cough.
Yeah, I don't remember him coughing. I don't remember that at all. No, I don't. We didn't see him. We saw him at lunch, and when he was coming to the set, everybody said, Mr. Disney. They'd say Mr. Disney. No, they wouldn't. They'd say Walt. Walt's coming. Walt's coming down to the set. And so we'd all get nervous and we'd, try to act like we were making a movie while he was standing around. Because we were still in awe of him. But I never heard him cough, I got to say that. But then the second film was called The One and Only Genuine Original Family Band.
Yep, with Walter Brennan.
With Walter Brennan, Buddy Epson. And
Another guy who hated the Jews and blacks. Walter Brennan hated blacks and Jews.
He was yes, I can understand that. I tried to stay away from him.
Yeah, I hate blacks and Jews.
That's very good.
Very good, Gil.
Yeah,
it's disturbing and accurate at the same time.
Can't stand those Jews or the black.
But in both those films, I had another crush on Leslie Ann Warren.
Yeah. I heard an interview with the two of you for the 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
And she doesn't remember you having a crush on her, and you don't remember being set up on a date with her.
I kissed her once in makeup.
Yeah.
And we kind of held on a bit. I thought, geez, her eyes were so big, you wouldn't think they could be coordinated. But they worked together, but these huge eyes and just great. She was too much for me, though. I realized that she was too, most actresses are emotional and volatile. That's what makes them great. So, and I've never been like that. I felt more stable or something. I don't know. But
how about Fred McMurray, who was known as
Fred
the cheapest
McMurray,
man in Hollywood?
He said, what?
Who was supposedly the cheapest man in Hollywood, Fred McMurray.
Fred McMurray. I said, what are we doing here? He said, I was a saxophone player. And they came up and said, you want to make a movie about a boxer or something? I forget what his first film was. He said, I'm the least likely guy to be in this business. He was just a shy saxophone player.
Became a star.
And they thought he was good the way he sort of mumbled. And great man, nice man, but not show busy at all.
Didn't you ask him to be a guest on your talk show years later?
I said, because I was sitting in for Carson.
Yeah.
And I said,
Carson.
it's important for me to have important people on.
Sure.
And he said, I just can't do that. I don't do talk shows well. And maybe he was right. I don't know. That was the thing. When I sat in for Carson, I wanted to have Jacques Cousteau on. And they said, well, no, that wasn't good.
We'll give you Ruth Buzzy.
Yeah.
I would have loved Ruth Buzzy. I wanted to have Kenny Rogers on. And they said, oh, he's a singer. I said, Kenny Rogers is a storyteller. Amazing personality. Mm-hmm. So I finally had him on, and it worked. But yeah, so when you sat in for Carson, you realized that, Johnny's name is on the coffee mug, on the pencils.
Yeah, the cigarette case on the desk.
The chair is his. Yeah. I did that 3 times in my career. I took over people's shows briefly, the Carson show when guesting. And then I took over the Mike Douglas show in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. And Mike Douglas said some terrible things about me. It was very, he resented the fact that I took, but his producers were letting him go. And they came to either me or Dick Clark, and I got it over Dick. I think maybe Dick Clark turned it down, but they told me that they chose me. And the third one is The Music Man. When I first started being Harold Hill, I did a lot of tours playing Harold Hill, the music. I had to fill Robert Preston was the Music Man. And I thought, if I can't be Preston, then I can't do it.
Sure.
I discovered, and anybody just getting any line of work, you got to bring your own shoes to the studio, to the stage. You can't fill people's shoes.
That's interesting.
And now I just realized we've had 2 stars of the Music Man.
Our friend Craig Bierko, I don't know if you know Craig, did it on Broadway, and he did it wonderfully.
Oh, I saw he was wonderful.
He had to audition for Meredith Wilson's widow to get the
I'm sure.
to get the job, and he was.
They're bringing Music Man back now with Hugh Jackman.
I know.
He's going to be fat.
I'm sure he will be. I'm sure he will. He's cut out for it.
Now, Fred McMurray is one of those people. There were a handful of people who owned California.
Real estate.
Oh, yeah. He bought a lot of it.
Their idea, like Bob Hope, was to buy land,
and Bing Crosby.
Yeah.
And what was the hero?
Gene Autry bought a lot of land.
Gene Autry.
Yeah.
And TV station.
You and Leslie Ann are charming in
You think
that
so?
movie. Yeah, you have those nice songs, About Time, together. You can see all that stuff, those great Sherman brothers.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
It was great. But she was dating Peters.
John Peters, the hairdresser.
John Peters, the hairdresser.
Yeah, right.
I thought, come on.
Now, here's a name I have to ask you about because I got such a scary reaction from Robert Wagner. Have you ever worked with or met Jerry Lewis?
Yeah.
I wish we were a video podcast in that moment.
No, he's a great man. He's a great man. I did the telethon and did that, and he was very nice to me.
Yeah.
There you go.
But I heard some terrible stories. But I don't want to. I don't want to go to that. Yeah, he was very nice to me. It just I was afraid of him. As I was of you. You know what? Let me say here and now, I'm not afraid of you anymore.
That's nice. That's nice. That's why it took
not
us
sure
5
that's
years to
good.
get him here.
You've lost your edge.
Yeah.
So after those 2 movies,
Yeah.
did you and Banner, did you think I'll
Well, then the
have a movie
contract was
career
up,
now? Or
and then I don't know.
did you want to go back to the stage? Did you
I
want to just keep doing musicals?
I don't know. I was playing a lot of Vegas. I played the Elvis showroom. Got up to making. I can't believe what I was making in Vegas those years.
Did you meet Elvis in your travels?
Met Elvis twice. I went to see his show and went backstage. Met his dad and went back to a dressing room full of women. He had girls lined up on the couch. I thought, wow, this is great. And
It's good to be the king.
Yeah.
and Elvis was just a great little country boy. Just a always was this very country boy.
Everybody that we've had on the show that worked with him found him very polite and very gracious.
yeah. Oh,
right,
yeah.
George Shapiro and
yes.
last week
Yeah.
Erwin Winkler.
Yeah, it was almost a sad.
Now here it took all the self-control I have not to get to this. You worked with Milton Berle.
Yeah.
And
You know where he's going,
now,
John, with this.
do you-
I don't know.
have you heard about, I know you're not religious.
He apparently has a very large penis.
Yeah, he's blessed with a large penis.
Apparently.
Stories about him wanting to show it to people and
Sure.
to take it.
Yes.
Supposedly.
I never saw that. I don't know. They didn't want to show it to me. I don't know. The only thing I did a benefit or something in New York, and I did a couple of jokes when I was just starting out, and it was awkward. I was trying to be like you, and I was just starting, and he came up after and he said, "John, just sing, just sing, forget about the jokes." And I said, "Okay," but I was always jealous of the opening act. My opening act for years was Jay Leno,
Oh.
and then Kip Addotta.
Oh, I remember Kip
Yes.
Addotta,
Kip
funny
Addotta.
guy.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, and I was always jealous of the
Still around.
Lonnie Shore, Freddie Roman.
Lonnie Shore.
Freddie Roman's a killer act.
Funny guys.
God.
Rich Little. And I always wanted to get that response that you guys get. If you're just a singer, people might cheer or applaud, but they don't laugh. And laughing is you give an audience is really giving you so much, that love. I wanted that. And so I started stealing the jokes from the opening act. No, I didn't. You know how I started doing jokes?
Yeah.
Jack Benny, first of all, presented me first at Caesar's Palace.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you about Benny.
66.
Sure.
And Caesar's was just opening. And I would watch Jack Benny every night after that. And so after that, I would say, I just came from Las Vegas. I just worked with Jack Benny. And Jack Benny would say, and I don't do impressions well, I would do Jack Benny's stuff by saying it's Jack Benny. And across the street was Dean Martin. Well, Dean Martin says, when we crawled in bed one night last week, I found we had the same physique. You brought a new kind of love to me. And I do some of his parody things, like that, these stupid parodies, The night when I came home, you said you weren't alone. You said you were alone. You said he was a nudist who came in to use the phone. Oh, thank you so much. They're stupid. But I would give them credit from the comedian, and that's how I started doing jokes. And then
That's
I would
great.
try to find my
Now
own.
tell us about Jack Benny.
Incredible ego, very secure in what he was doing. I did 15 minutes and maybe 20 in his show.
Just songs.
Yeah, songs.
Yeah.
No, just singing.
Yeah.
And then he did a little shtick with me on stage, and it was very, well, John, how do you, it was very, he was very secure in what he did, and I really didn't get to know Jack Benny.
He was very close to Johnny, to Carson. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't quite believe that. I doubt anybody was really close to John.
That's interesting.
I bet Ed McMahon was not close to Johnny.
Very interesting. Well, tell
Johnny
us
was
about that.
Such a gentleman and such a great man. But I never got to know Johnny, and I guested a lot on the show.
You guys were good together. You had there's some clips on YouTube. That's that one where you're trying to explain the history of Christmas cards.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun to watch the two of you. You got a nice timing, a nice patter.
I love the way he treated me, and I respected him so much, and I think he was a great man. But I don't think anybody got to know Carson. He started as a magician, I think, which says a lot. Because you picture him in 5th grade,
Carsoni,
getting the girls around him. I mean, in high school, saying, pick a card. I think that's magicians find that's a way to get girls. First, you ever see one of these? Look at this. So he was a very shy man.
All those years you knew him, you never really got a sense of him.
Gail, are you a shy guy? Were you?
No, I'm real outgoing.
No, that's your act. That's your act.
No,
he's very shy.
You're not like Rickles. You're like Newhart, aren't you? As far as being shy.
Yeah. And
you put on this bombastic, brash thing, but is that you?
If I'm in a situation with a lot of people, I find myself being the one sitting in the corner.
Yes, like at the Christmas party this year.
Yes. Yeah.
You went and hid.
I'll find the spot where the least amount of people will notice me, and I'll wander over there.
Yeah.
One question about that Milton Berle show, and this could be totally bullshit because IMDb lets us down all the time. Do you have any memory of being on that show with Peter Lorre?
No.
Okay.
Oh,
sorry.
It's okay.
We can cut that part out.
Peter Lorre and Ann Jeffries.
Another person that's been mentioned on the show a number of times, Joey Bishop.
You did 5 episodes of the Joey Bishop
I did
show.
Not.
Yes, you did. With the Ritz brothers, no less.
Yeah, but who cares?
I know, but it's just fun for us.
This was in 1914.
It's fun. It's fun shit for us.
I don't think I did a lot of Griffin. Griffin was great at
Tell us
bringing
about
people out. Oh, great. I didn't have a crush on him.
So we found
Neither did
the
Ava
one
Gabor.
guy
The one guy.
that you don't have a crush
The one
on.
that was gay, right? No, but he was great at saying, he would sit on the edge of his chair and say, so how did you do that? What you, right? Griffin would sit on the edge of his chair to pull people out. They said, Merv makes the stars shine, and he did.
Yeah.
Even as a young kid.
It's a talent.
He treated me like a star.
He always made it sound like he was fascinated with
it's a
whatever he
gift.
just had to say.
Yeah. He was very good.
Do you remember working with
you
Gene
say
Kelly?
Mike
I never worked
Douglas.
with Gene Kelly.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
The Sandy Duncan show.
Oh, on Sandy. Yeah. I love Sandy.
But you say Mike Douglas was a prick.
Well, he felt that I was taking his show away from him. And the truth is that they were letting him go. There was a budget thing. He was asking for too much money. I said, well, he's out. So he felt that I should have called him because we were friends. I should call him and said, they want to give me your show for Westinghouse. What should I do? Well, no, you don't do that. I can't do that. And later, when I would have liked to have called him, he just said terrible things about me. And I had a lot to learn as a host. I was an entertainer trying to be a host, So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I think he's a good man. But
And here's another thing, because we both worked on a Hollywood Squares. I heard the variety shows in those days, particularly Hollywood Squares, they used to have a wagon with wine and other alcoholic beverages that they were very open about. They loved to get the people a little loopy.
Well, the thing is, Hollywood Squares, you make in one day. That's it, right? So you have dinner between Wednesday and Thursday. And there's this buffet dinner when everybody drinks wine and beer, or some people do drink wine and beer. And I remember on one of those shows, not Steinbeck. Who's the comedian? Not John Steinbeck. He wasn't that.
I would have loved to have seen
Steinberg.
David Steinberg.
Yes.
He said, "You want some stuff?" He said, "It'll make you funnier." I said, "What are you talking about?" I think it was either Coke or grass or something. And I said, "I don't think that'll make me funnier." I couldn't believe that. Yeah. And that's the only time anybody's ever offered me anything
So
like
David
that.
Steinberg was trying to get you stoned.
I think so. Yeah. Oh, there's no question that he had some stuff in a bag.
Hey, John, I've got some good shit.
But I think of him as being very clever and very funny.
Very funny man.
If
Very
anybody
funny
doesn't
man.
need that, but maybe he was just going through a thing,
Come on, John, I'll get you wasted.
Variety shows really are gone for the most part, John. I mean,
they're award shows. No, American Idol is a variety show.
Yeah, but
they've come back.
But
that's it.
But I mean, the golden age. I mean, and you did every one of them.
I did. Yeah.
And
I think what killed them was those bad sketches, because not everybody can be Conway and Harvey Korman.
Yeah. So, but they made Donnie and Marie and Tony Orlando and Sonny and Cher. Right. Everybody had to do this forced comedy. Shields and Yarnell.
Yeah, the Starlight Vocal Band.
Everybody had a variety
Not everybody
show.
can do those sketches. That's a real trick.
Yeah.
You know, the Carol Burnett is one of a kind.
Yeah.
But it's like before when I mentioned Barbara Felton, she said back then she became known for Get Smart, and then she worked constantly in variety shows. There were so many.
Yeah.
You could work every week.
She was so smart and all. I remember guesting on Sonny and Cher, and it was right across the hall from Carol Burnett, and I couldn't figure out why no one welcomed me to the show. Finally, on about the third day, Sonny walked up and said, "Oh, John, it's nice to have you on the show." Oh, great. Cher never did say maybe hello.
Wow.
But they weren't that sort of welcoming hosts, you know, like Carol Burnett had been and other people. It's a very different situation with Sonny. Now, maybe they weren't getting along. Maybe I just caught them on a bad time.
Yeah, might have been.
Carol Burnett was one of those that was very open and warm.
No. She was so nice to me. I think Carol was more at ease in front of an audience. To me, anyway. I didn't get to know Carol that well. No, I didn't.
You worked with Corman and Conway a few times. Yeah, the Second Bananas.
I think they developed that question and answer thing. I think Bob Banner developed that for Carol Burnett so that Carol Burnett could loosen up. And so
interesting.
That we would. The point of that
the Q&A with the audience.
Yeah.
How interesting.
And
Very smart of him.
You worked with someone who I've heard was one of those people that existed on stage. If you gave him, a character, an accent, he was and that was Sid Caesar.
He's going to say, I never worked with Sid Caesar.
I
could see it forming.
Yeah.
I did. On the Julie Andrews special.
I'll tell you about working with Julie Andrews, but I met him. We guessed it with Carson.
Love this.
I guessed it together with Sid Caesar and Carson.
Uh-huh.
He'd been bodybuilding, came back, had this incredible body, and no, I didn't really work with him.
How about this one? How about Mickey Rooney on the Carol Burnett show?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Mickey Rooney.
We hit on one, Gil.
I never met him.
He's amazing, a piece of work. But on
tell us about Mickey.
I didn't do that much with Mickey Rooney. Okay, don't hold it against me. But Julie Andrews and I sang a love duet, and it's a lazy afternoon, and just singing with Julie Andrews was a thrill. But it was like a romantic thing, and I thought, she's too old for me. I didn't think that we worked together. I don't know how old she is. I'm 77 now. How old will Julie Andrews be?
Oh God, she's
like 87.
Got to be in her mid to late 80s.
Yeah, so I thought it was. But she
writing
was
a memoir,
so beautiful, so pretty, and it was a thrill singing with her.
So you don't remember working with any of these people?
Not really. I won't remember this show after today. I'm an old man.
How about Bob Hope?
Oh yeah, now Bob Hope was great to me. I did a special with him. I did sketches with it. Think about Bob Hope. Everything was on cue cards. So like Frank, I'm looking at you, but Bob Hope would be doing his lines over your shoulder, looking right over. And Walter Brennan in the movie was all cue cards, looking over your shoulder. Said, "Well, I love you. I can't do Walter Brennan, but he's looking over your shoulder." He never memorized anything. So Bob Hope was doing such topical jokes, and maybe he was older, but it was all on cue cards, even in sketches.
Treated you well, though.
I remember even as a kid watching Bob Hope.
Watching those eyes wander to the cards.
Yes,
wander away. Yeah.
He didn't hide it at all.
But he was very nice to me. Yeah.
And then I remember he adopted that whole character into his later movies, where he would, I swear he must have had cue cards
where his eyes
in the later movies. And he would time it for the laughs are coming now.
How about Rickles, since you brought him up before we turned the mics on?
Oh, boy. I worked with Rickles twice. One at Westbury, and I would do the first. I was his opening act. Mm-hmm. I did like 45
What
minutes.
a kick.
What?
I said, what a kick.
I thought you said, what a dick.
I thought so too.
Did we just go there?
I thought.
What's wrong with both of you?
It sounded like you said, "What a dick."
What a dick. So, and when I would
He
finish
worked
my
with Milton
set,
Berle.
when I finished my set, I would watch Rickles every show. Rickles was just amazing. He started the motor running before his show, and there was a spine where he's. From the little I've seen of you, Gil, you do that same thing. There's a motor running while you're on stage, and you don't let him off the hook. You did it. Rickles was like that, just a machine to bop, bop, bop. And not that he didn't take pauses, but the motor was running all the time. But one night at the Riviera, I was doing like 45 minutes usually, and one night my audience bit. I do a bit where I used to ask people what year they were dating, and I had a medley for each year from 1940 to 1965.
That's fun.
I memorized these songs from every year, love songs, sat on the lady's lap. Well, one night it didn't go well. So my show was like 7 minutes short. And I came off stage, and Rickles, who was usually there, just like a bull, ready to start. He wasn't there because I was 7 minutes early. So I went up the steps in the Riviera, and there he was, just leaving his dressing room to come down and stand off stage. He said, What are you doing? And I said, well, my audience bit didn't go well, so I had to say, you can't do that. And he dashed down on stage. And after his show, he took me into his dressing room and said, son, you can't do that. Do your time, man. Do your time. Never do that. Because I left him high and dry. I did. As an opening act,
wow.
I was too short. So I was really sorry. He was such a pro. Such a pro.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. What about Lucy?
Oh, Lucy.
Oh, boy.
I love Lucy.
You were on an episode of Here's Lucy as a professor.
Yeah, I think the family. I don't know this, but I felt a little bit like I was being set up to be Lucy Arnaiz's guy. I don't know.
Really? Interesting. You were in that episode.
We did 2 shows,
right.
And it was great. And I was invited to dinner at the house with Gary Morton, and they were all very nice. And I don't know. They were very nice to me. But one day on the set. Little Lucy and I were doing a scene, and Lucille Ball was up at the back of the auditorium, and she said, "Stop!" came tromping down the aisle and had I guess it was water. I don't know, but it was a vodka bottle, a vodka bottle, and she threw the bottle on the floor. The glass went everywhere. And she said, don't you ever, to Lucy, not to me, it was all to Lucy, but I was standing there just wanting to be anywhere else. It was so embarrassing. She laid into Lucy. She said, you don't turn, say the line and then turn. You do not, that's not how you do comedy. Don't fool around with this. This is serious business we do. And Lucy would do, even though she had a director, she had a lighting director, she did everything. Scripts, lighting, sound,
hands-on,
wardrobe, attitudes. Very strong lady, and she felt that she knew how it should work, and it was. So I saw a whole other side of Lucy. But what a master at her craft she was.
Wow.
And I love Lucy Arnaiz, but I don't know. I had the feeling.
This is a name that's come up, John. We're going to test you here in our travels and 200 of these, 250, 60 of these things. You ever work with a legendary comedy writer, Pat McCormick?
I had him write some material for me.
Okay.
Do you know that?
No. Well, but he's come up on this show a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was trying to get comic material. How do I get stuff? And so he wrote me. I did a thing on Streets of San Francisco.
We're going to talk about that.
A man and a woman, right?
Sure.
And I said, "Can you give me some lines about that?" He said, "Yeah." So he wrote me like 12 pages of stuff, and it's just so hard when people write material for you because it's got to fit like an old pair of jeans on you, and it's got to come out of you to have comedy writers. I don't know. So anyway, I remember the joke he wrote for me was, anyway, I played the part of a man and a woman, and I'd shoot all the man stuff one day, and then I'd shoot the female. I played the part of a transvestite who kills people
with a hat pin.
With a hat pin,
yeah.
And you've watched too many of my shows.
I have.
Frankie. And
I watched that one in first run.
Do you know something? This is so weird.
What?
I remember as a kid, I loved reading TV Guide. And I remember seeing that you were going to be playing like this transvestite killer.
Yeah. I rehearsed with a female impersonator for a month, and
Greg Russell?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you're in our friend Frank DeCaro's new book about the history of drag and show business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think I was pretty good at that part of it, but and it was streets of San Francisco. So we're shooting in San Francisco, and I'd had too much coffee, so by about 11 o'clock, I've got to hit the men's room. Now I'm in full drag. If you're in full drag and you're shooting in San Francisco,
Oh my gosh.
which restroom do you go to? So I figured, what the hell? I charged into the ladies' room. I wasn't there 3 minutes. Lady walks in and said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "How did you recognize me?" She said, "You were the only one standing." Well, that's a joke. That's a joke, right? Pat McCormick wrote that for me, is what I'm getting to. That's
That's
me.
great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Now, what did you think, if you remember, the two stars on this, Michael Douglas and
Michael
Carl
Douglas wasn't there very much because he was running off to edit a little movie that he was making called
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's
yes.
One
Nest.
Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest,
Yes.
which turned out to be an incredible.
Yes.
which I think
Film.
is what caused a great deal of
Because it was
uncomfortable-
supposed to star his daddy.
Kirk Douglas.
Yeah.
Kirk Douglas tried for years.
Yeah.
He wanted to play.
He owned the property.
McMurphy, and he was desperate
The
to
Jack
get
Nicholson
someone
part.
to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then his son takes it.
But
and
he
makes
aged out of
into-
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
don't you think it was the right choice?
Sure, of course.
Oh,
Oh,
my God.
Nicholson was terrific,
Who
but
could fault that?
I don't think Kirk Douglas ever got over that.
That's interesting. Yeah.
But that was a big departure for you to take that part on.
It was. It was the same manager that had me do the centerfold with the towel where I wasn't naked. He said, we're going to look for different things.
Right.
Because up until then, I'd done Boy Meets Girl.
Sure.
The biggest problem is pimples,
Right.
And so this was a real stretch. What I discovered in playing a woman, when you start to do a woman, you talk like this, right? Hi, come on in. Well, that's Minnie Mouse. And I discovered that if I raise my voice up here, that a lot of women talk right in there, So I discovered that and then to be overly feminine is like a drag queen. To really get away with playing a woman, you can't be overly floppy feminine. That's drag queen woman, right? Which is done usually for laughs, to be. So that in finding the woman was a real challenge.
People still talk about that episode today. I mean, it was a
stretch.
a big moment.
I had-
the episode of that show that people remember the most, certainly.
Yeah, it was a good show. Streets of San Francisco.
Carl
It was
Malden.
well done.
Carl Malden.
Carl Malden, great man. His nose was really that big.
So you have no memory of working with Joey Bishop.
No.
memory of working with Gene Kelly.
Carl
Right.
Malden's
Well,
no.
this was an unusual part. And then the same producer of Street San Francisco did the show in Boston with the Bob Urich. Spencer
for Hire.
And I played
Sure.
a deranged minister
Right,
on
that's
that. They gave me
right, you
Another
did.
role on that. And it wasn't as good as the man.
What was the mail like? What was the fan mail like? What was the reaction and from playing that?
I can't remember.
Yeah, yeah.
My brother is a surgeon. He's gone now, but my brother was a surgeon, and because I saved off my eyebrows to do it.
I remember that.
And he said, "You should never have done that." He said, "Sometimes eyebrows don't come back," and now I got my eyebrows back. And my wife thought it was really weird walking around with no eyebrows.
I remember Johnny Carson doing a joke about you in a monologue. Do you remember the joke?
No.
He said it was so windy in L.A. today, John Davidson's hair actually moved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember that?
They do
but
hair
stuck
jokes.
with me for 40 years.
Yeah. I can grow hair. I not much talent, but I can grow hair. And at my age now, hair is the one thing my body can still produce. That's it. So it just keeps growing. Like I'm like an albino chia pet, that just So my wife said to me, your hair's too long. You look ridiculous. Because I used to have a ponytail. Last year I had a ponytail.
Saw it online.
She said, why don't you cut your hair? And I said, honey, I'm going to be 78 years old in December. I don't want to look like an old man. She said, great. Now you look like an old woman. Pat McCormick.
Yeah.
Do you have tapes, John, of the talk show, of the John Davidson show?
I have a basement full of tapes I could show you.
Because I'm looking at
and
some
nobody
of the,
cares.
No, well, listen, Gilbert, listen to some of the people John had on his talk show. Mel Blanc, Chuck Berry, Aretha, Red Fox, Peter O'Toole, James Brown, Steve Allen, Ruth Gordon, Betty Davis.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever have an urge to go back and
I thought
dig them up, dig them up and look at them?
I don't have all of them. I have a lot of them.
They're great little time capsules.
Yeah, they are. It's like when you look back at they try to bring That's Incredible back.
I remember.
And it bombed. It was just out of date. It was, so when you look, there was a certain time for these shows. If you look back at Sid Caesar's show of shows,
Sure.
Imogene Coke, all that, they're dated now. You look back and they're basically doing vaudeville or whatever that.
It's just like just about every year, someone makes the big announcement, I'm bringing variety shows back. And it bombs horribly.
Who cares? Yeah. But you can do another version of it where you just have to redo it. Everything old is new again, but you got to make it new again.
And the other two shows they tried to bring back, and both failed horribly, were The Love Boat and Fantasy Island.
Did they really?
Two shows you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ricardo Montalban.
Let's get back to your Ricardo Montalban fixation.
Well, I also did Fantasy Island, and he's just a great man. He was just so charming. He was so nice to me and treated me so nicely. Love Boat. The Love Boat only left the dock. Love Boat only went. It was on the back lot at some studio for most of the year.
We've got Gavin McLeod coming up Monday.
What?
We got Captain Stubing on the show Monday.
He was great.
Yeah.
But like once a year, maybe every 3/4 of a year, the boat actually went out. And I got to go to Scandinavia with Jack Klugman and his wife.
Wow.
Great man. Telly Savalas.
I love
and
this.
his wife, Julie. And so we got to know them. And Telly Savalas said something to me that I should have listened to. He said, John, you smile too much. And he was right. Even now, if I don't smile, well, people don't recognize. I'm not on television like I was. But if I smile, people, if they're going to recognize me, people over 60, they recognize when I smile. There was a guy on Kojak who didn't smile at all, and I think Telly had gotten to him, one of those younger guys on that show. When you don't smile, people assume that you have more going behind your face. When you smile and lay it all out there, it's like, well, that's all the guy's got. I think that's what it is.
That's interesting.
So it's a mistake that I've made. I've smiled too much. But when I'm nervous, I smile more.
And tell us about Jack Klugman.
Oh, great man. Just a very real guy. And his wife, too. Great man. What else did I do? Did I do a guest shot on Quincy? Quincy? Was that his show?
Yeah, Quincy, where he's the medical examiner.
Medical exam. I think I did again because I remember shooting on the back lot. I hate to be so forgetful, but I've been doing this for 55 years.
I know.
And I've forgotten. Just
You're doing pretty good.
I can't remember. No, I'm not. I can't remember a lot of this stuff. I wish I could.
You're doing pretty good. What are these stories from I found one of your albums is called John Hamilton Davidson is a Funny Guy. And it's songs and it's stories.
Yeah, a bunch of stories.
What is this story Burt Reynolds is afraid to tell you?
Oh, so
can you share that, or am I stealing from the cabaret act?
So he came on Hollywood Squares. He did the pilot for Hollywood Squares.
Uh-huh.
And so did Johnny, by the way. And but Burt Reynolds, so we're having this dinner in between Wednesday and Thursday. And he says, Johnny C. did that centerfold there, Cosmopolitan. He says, I was the first. I said, I know, Burt, and you look better than I did. Yeah, I think so. And I said, how did that come about? And he said, well, Helen Gurley Brown came up and said, would you like to do a centerfold? So he brings, Burt Reynolds goes back to New York City, meets with Helen Gurley Brown, says, we're going to do this thing. Now, how do you look? Burt says, I think I look pretty good. She says, well, no, I mean, do you have a tan line? even though this isn't totally nude, you can't have a tan line. You can't be two-toned. You got to be all one tone. So he strips down, and she says, yeah, you see, where your bathing suit was, you got a tan line. He says, give me a week. Goes back out to Malibu, takes off all his clothes, lies on his private beach, lies on his back in the sun, comes back a week later. How's this? She says, well, where you were red, where you were brown, now you're redder. Where you were sort of almost white, you're redder, and it just doesn't match. He said, give me one more week. Goes back to his private beach in Malibu, takes off all his clothes, covers himself in sand, totally in sand, except for 2 straws for his nose, and except for where his bathing suit was. Now, can you picture this? He's lying there and totally nude except where his bathing suit was. Wouldn't you know, at that very moment, 2 old beachcombers, Marge and Ethel, are coming down the beach. Marge says to Ethel, would you look at that, Ethel? When we were 24, they were chasing us. When we were 44, we were chasing them. Now that we're 84 and don't give a darn, they're growing wild all up and down the beach.
That's the Burt Reynolds story.
That's the Burt Reynolds joke.
You put that in the set.
I love that joke.
Yeah, it's a funny joke.
Don't you love jokes where at the end they take you on another?
Yeah.
Gil, you knew that one.
You knew that.
Oh, yes.
Did you?
Yeah.
What's the Teddy Roosevelt one? The survival kit and Teddy Roosevelt? Does that mean anything?
Well, Teddy Roosevelt's, no, that's a speech. I did a one-man show on Teddy Roosevelt, and he gives a speech about it's the man in the arena.
Okay.
It's not the critic who counts. It's not the one who. It's the man in the arena whose face is covered with blood and sweat. I can't remember right now, but it's
people forget you put out 15 albums.
Yeah.
Recorded a lot of music.
Yeah, and still am. I still do shows with my guitar and telling jokes, and I just put out a new album.
So what can people expect when they come to Birdland on the 27th?
Well,
what are they going to see?
I open with this. No, I open with this. If my song can raise your spirits, if my song can make you dance, if my song can make you dare enough to chant some new romance, if my song can make you reminisce of some sweet day gone by, then let me be your songbird, and soon your soul will fly. I'm standing on the corner of nothing and nowhere. And it basically, it's a busker singing on the corner, just realizing that at this point in my life, I'm nowhere. And it's the confusion of trying to figure out life. What do you do with your life? And I'm developing a pilot for a TV show.
Tell us about that.
Gil is one of my celebrity guests. It's Gil and Penn Jillette, my 2 guests.
Can't wait.
And the whole idea is, what's next? The show's called What's Next? What do you do with yourself in your 60s? Now, I know what Gil does. He's doing what he does best and still doing it. But for a lot of people, the challenge of, I've just been let go in my job, or I'm tired of doing what I'm doing. How do I reinvent myself for the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever? That's what it's all about. And I wrote the theme song. What's next? Over the hill and round the bend. These golden years will make us great, my friend. I'm not gonna take that final bow. The show ain't over, no way, no how. We've all been shakers, fakers, money makers, dads or stay-at-home moms. We've been finders, keepers, losers, weepers, creatures of .com. Each time I start to whine about the wrinkled state I'm in, I step it up, suck in my gut, and grab a second wind. What's next? So, it's a song about what do I do with my life? And so I'm interviewing people. I'm going to go to, after we do your show, I'm going to go out to Times Square and find people in their 60s and do Man on the Street. I'm going to walk up to them. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. And
just like you were in 63, smiling at strangers.
Yes, I'm going
on the street.
I'm going to say, what are you doing with your life? Circle. you know? I read a thing, people who have regrets looking back on their life. Now, Gil obviously doesn't have this.
I regret everything.
You don't regret not writing your own story. You are writing your own story, man. You are doing it. You say you're not in charge of your life. You are doing it. Second thing that people regret is they don't express themselves. Why haven't I been able to express my feelings all my life? You're getting it all out. All the raw shit in your body is coming out. You just vomit this shit out every show.
He's got you pegged, Gil.
You know, and it's great because you're letting that go. You know, I don't sense you're frustrated. You're just, boom, you just let it go. Second thing is not spending more time with friends. I don't know how a lot of people regret they didn't find more time with friends. Another regret is they didn't choose happiness. You know, happiness is a choice. People who live in a mud hut can be happy, you know? And that's one of my regrets, that I didn't choose to be happy. One of the things I've tried doing lately, because I get very negative, and you mentioned me earlier that sometimes you get negative. I tend to get so negative, but lately I've started turning my mouth up, and as you people are listening, smile. Start smiling. There's a chemical or something that's released. You tend to get content and happy. Isn't that amazing? So one of the regrets is that you didn't choose happiness. So that's what my show called What's Next is all about. But I haven't sold the pilot yet. When I sell it, I'll be glad.
And Gilbert is a celebrity guest.
Celebrity guest? How did that happen? And he didn't say fuck one time.
Oh, that's right. He's really... He must like you, John. What other plugs? JohnDavidson.com is the website. People can get your swag and your records there and other...
And my appearance schedule. I'm singing somewhere. I'm singing in a theater near you most every week.
Do you want to sing something with Gilbert, or is that just taking it way too far?
Not really.
Okay.
No, does Gilbert, do you sing?
It doesn't stop me.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. Good, I chose the right key. That's right, in your key.
Yeah,
He doesn't have a key.
You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
Are we still on? It's a parking lot now, right?
We stopped recording 25 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm kidding. John, this was great.
I hope you can make a show out of this. Can you cut out the bad part?
Be a little bit of editing involved, but not much.
Because I was boring at times.
No, not in your life.
We got to cut out every single part we mentioned someone who you did more.
I got more names. Liberace. Do you remember Liberace?
I don't. It doesn't reflect on those people. It reflects on me.
Did you work with Liberace? Any memories?
I met Liberace.
Okay.
I stole from Liberace his idea, and you do the same thing when you come out on stage. What does Gil do when he comes out? He does this.
Ah, yeah.
That's the big hammy.
It's like
loves the audience,
it's
embraces.
Like, look at you. Liberace in his mind used to say, look at you. You came to see me. How many performers don't give a fuck about who came to see him? You care. Or you pretend to. And that's what I try to spread as much love as Liberace used to spread. I don't do it to other men. I do it to the audience.
Yeah.
Last bit of fun personal trivia.
What is it now, Frank?
Last bit of fun personal trivia. Did your dad marry Dick Clark and his wife as a minister?
As a minister, yeah.
That's kind of cool.
He married Kenny Rogers and his wife.
I
and
like
he married
that.
Dick Clark, yeah.
I like that.
That's cool, yeah.
Yeah. I'm out of bullets.
Okay.
Gilbert, what do you got for this man? Let him go home.
yes.
Let him go to Times Square.
So, this
You
has
want to
been-
come out Times Square with me and do 10 minutes?
Okay.
You don't want to do that?
I'll be your opening act.
Hi, folks.
That was good.
Gilbert Gottfried here. This is John Denver. John Denver, say a few words. Davidson. Oh, yeah, John Davidson. Tell me the truth. When years ago, before you met me, didn't you think I was probably an asshole?
I still do. Yeah. Hasn't changed.
I mean, we're so different. We're I'm vanilla, and you're raspberry ripple, or whatever.
You
whatever.
avoided us for 4 years, John. Now, how do you feel now that you've done it?
I wasn't ready for you 4 years ago.
Can you endorse it? Can you recommend the show to others?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
So-
I hope you had fun.
This has been Gilbert Gottfried's amazing Colossal podcast with my co-host Frank Santopadre. And we've had on a guy who's wanted to fuck every male co-star he's worked with and still says he's not gay. John Davidson.
I'm not going to comment.